Greetings from Dr. Dan the Magic Man. I'd like to share with you today some things from Chapter 9 I want you to remember. Learners with Autism Spectrum Disorders. This is one of the more controversial disabilities. Some believe that immunizations for measles and mumps causes this disability. According to your book and most science professionals, this is a myth. There are also controversial methods and cures for this disability. Some people have implied that swimming with the dolphins can cure this disability. I am not here to dispute claims, but I am here to tell us that we should be very cautious with our advice for parents. We don't want to give parents false hope. Some people believe that bad parenting can create this disability. Again, there is no evidence to support this. Bad parenting may create kids who are socially awkward, but there is no evidence to show that bad parenting can create this disability. There is also a myth that all children who are on the spectrum are highly intelligent. We may be familiar with the movie Rain Man or other movies that portray individuals with autism in a certain manner, but we need to be cautious using any blanket statements. This is the fastest growing disability. In California, they're calling it an epidemic. There are thousands of children being identified with this disability. We are not really sure why. We may need to look outside the box to find rewards or instructional methods that work. Remember, in an earlier video I shared with you a reward that we use with a kitchen hand mixer. The parent shared this information with us and we were very successful using this as a reward. Many children in this category will have repetitive patterns or movements. Many individuals in this category have difficulty with conversation. Many have difficulty expressing their thoughts or opinions or feelings. You may ask a child after reading a passage, "What color is John's favorite shirt?" And the child will respond, "Red," because in the story it clearly delineated that John's favorite shirt was red. However, if you ask, "Why do you think red is John's favorite color?" you will get usually a response that goes back to something in the passage, like John's favorite shirt is red. They may give you an answer that is not their opinion. When you say why, usually you will either get a blank stare or statements that are not related to their own personal thoughts or feelings. Again, you can't make any blanket statements, but in a general sense, we have observed that kind of behavior in many individuals who are on the spectrum. Some of you may be familiar with Temple Grandin. She is an author, she has her PhD, and she is on the spectrum. I've met her twice at two different special education conferences. I remember the first time that I met her. It was very awkward. I saw her and went up to her and asked if I may have her autograph. She was eating an ice cream cone, of all things. And I remember responding to her statements, but she did not respond to my statements. So it was as if she were having a conversation by herself, but even her statements weren't related to the previous statement. And I remember walking away from that conversation feeling very puzzled. I thought to myself, what is going on in her head? I know she's intelligent. I know that she has invented various things. You may be familiar with the cow squeezes. I'm not sure what those mechanisms are called, but they squeeze the cow so it becomes calm. She invented that. She's very smart. But in conversation, she was not responding to me. And it was fascinating to see that. The second time I met her, she was on a panel and people were asking her questions, and she was responding to a question. But in my conversation, she wasn't picking up on any social cues from what I was saying. So if I have a conversation with her again, I will ask very specific questions so it will not be so awkward. But at any rate, you will find that sometimes you will need to teach the children how to interact in social situations. I was working with this one individual who is on the spectrum with magic. And several times he would say, "Are you joking with me?" And I really didn't know what to say. I guess he learned that he needed to check to see if the person is saying it as a joke or if the person is saying it for real. I remember once I said something like, "The cards that are made in Ohio turn into a brick." Now what I was meaning is that the cards get sticky and kind of form a solid deck and they stick together. Many magicians know the cards and where they're made and all that. And I was just making a little joke. But I saw that look in his eye, and I immediately qualified it by saying, not really a brick, but they do stick together. And I started explaining. And I could see his shoulders kind of drop, and he was so relieved to know that I went that extra step, because he was starting to process whether that deck was going to turn into a brick. And he was trying to make it make sense, because he saw me as a teacher. He knows that I'm professional, and he knew that I shouldn't be saying things that aren't true, but he was trying to process that, and I could see that happening. So be very careful with your words. When I was teaching at the University of Alabama, I was working with an intern who had a child with autism who was fascinated with shoes. They told her ahead of time to not wear any open-toed shoes because he may actually physically touch her shoes, and they didn't want to encourage him to do that. And he really liked sandals, and he was really fascinated with various sandals. One of the rewards that they would do for this child is allow him to go to Walmart and several department stores and spend time in the shoe aisle. And he was highly intelligent. He could tell you all the name brands of shoes, the various colors of shoes. At any rate, this one day I arrived early, and I was sitting down waiting for her to come in. She came in. The assistant was on one side, the teacher was on the other side, and this child came in, and as soon as he saw her shoes, he said, 99 cents, Walmart. And he started naming all the characteristics, all the various colors that you could get. And this intern was very light complected, and I kid you not when I say that she turned the color of a beet. She was just really, really red. She was so embarrassed. And later she expressed how embarrassed she was, because it was true. She had purchased these shoes for 99 cents. They were on sale. And he knew that they were on sale, and he knew all the colors, he knew what material it was made out of, and all that. But he was excited. He wasn't trying to embarrass her. He wasn't trying to make her feel bad. He was just so excited that he saw something that he recognized. And it must have been something unique about the shoe. I'm not exactly sure. At any rate, the moral of that story is you need to be careful, I guess, when you purchase shoes at Walmart. Your children may know those shoes. But I remember that because it was a complete disconnect with the intention that the child had and what actually impacted the intern. So don't take things personally. Many children with autism spectrum disorders do not have friends. They spend their time with their parents, family members, their caregivers, and maybe with other children with disabilities. But in most cases, they don't have friends without disabilities. As teachers, we need to do what we can to create a circle of friendship. I have a magic trick to help us remember that. We need to teach these children social skills, and we need to allow them to practice these social skills. Magic is one way, and this is a really cool trick. Have the black and white chips, and this chip is in the shape of a circle, which reminds me to create a circle of friends. I'm going to put this right here like that. And we need to do our part to change that circle of friends to include individuals without disabilities. Thanks for listening.